All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Before we get into today's video, we have a sponsor for today's video, and that sponsor is The Ridge. As you probably know from our previous spots, they make high-quality wallets using metal and elastic, and with Father's Day on the way, they make the perfect gift for the father or father figure in your life. I've used and loved them for years, and I'm happy to say I'll be switching into one of the new premium designs between Damascus Steel and Forged Ember. And if you'd like to purchase one as a gift, even if that gift is to yourself, you can head over to theridge.com/brozime and use code brozime at checkout to get 10% off and help support the channel. Thanks so much to The Ridge for sponsoring us yet again, and let's get into the video. All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So, Gara Prime is out. Let's talk about her. We haven't talked about Gara for a little while, so we are going to be talking about my preferred helmet ability with Gara and just kind of the build that we're on right now. Gara Prime obviously does not change too much outside of being very slightly tankier than regular Gara, but she does look absolutely fantastic. I'm a huge fan of how Gara Prime turned out in terms of her visual design, so that's fantastic. Now, as for the build on Gara Prime, it's going to be pretty similar to what you've seen in the past. We've got a lot of duration because she loves duration. We've got at least 130% strength so we can hit that 90% damage reduction on Splinter Storm. And then for me personally, I like to go with at least a little bit of range offsetting the narrow-minded. And then a maxed out efficiency for stacking your 4. Now, we are also using Arcane Energize and Arcane Aegis on here. And in a kind of weird turn, I actually don't think that Arcane Energize is the best arcane that I have equipped on her. Arcane Aegis is notable on Gara because the amount of shield regen that you're going to be getting and how consistent you're going to be getting it and how much more tanky this makes her is actually completely outrageous. On shield damage, getting the 3% chance, which sounds low, but it activates pretty often, for a 30% shield recharge for 12 seconds, which is continuous shield regeneration, is absolutely outrageous. You are not only completely invincible during this regeneration, because it is constantly refreshing your shields, but also you're getting this recharge combined with all of the DR that Gara can utilize, which we're getting not only from Splinter Storm, but also from Adaptation. So she might look a little squishy, let's say, with her 660 combined health and shields. But if you just consider having Splinter Storm, just Splinter Storm completely by itself, she has 6,600 effective health. And that's without even considering armor or even the base damage reduction that shields have. Without any of that, she's at 6,600, which is pretty healthy. But whenever you take into account things like adaptation, this is an additional 90% damage reduction, which stacks on top of her already 90% damage reduction, compounding to 99% damage reduction, which puts her at a very, very healthy 66,000 effective health before considering armor or the regular DR that shields have. So I would say that this build is very, very hard to kill. And it's also more of a easy to use build where you're not going to be really worried about much, and you can kind of do everything in Gara's kit. We have enough range that you can use her for to DPS small areas, which is sometimes going to be desired. And it's just real nice overall. And luckily, we have an open slot on Gara's third ability because her third ability is just not very useful to her in particular. Thankfully, other Warframes have uses for it in the helmet system. So we have replaced that with Firewalker, which works well with what Gara Prime builds for. She wants a lot of duration, and she wants to move fast if you're planning on using Splinter Storm as a DPS ability. And, you know, the extra heat damage to strip some armor sometimes on enemies that are super high level. Maybe that's also effective, even though I would say most of us are probably using heat on all of our weapons at this point anyway, because heat is that good. But Firewalker is real nice. Gives you the status immunity as well, so you're getting that knockdown prevention and just all kinds of other like small amounts of damage that you're just not going to be taking whenever you're running around on Firewalker. So yeah, it's just a really great ability that slots in here very easily. Only 6 energy, and you get over a minute of time in it. It's just not really hurting your energy economy in any way, shape, or form. And it's just excellent as a addition to her kit. So let's show this off. It's going to look real similar to the way that you've seen Gara be used for the longest time, if you've seen Gara be used, which is likely because I would say Gara is fairly popular. So just to go over kind of the main loop that Gara performs, you use your 2 on yourself, and you can also, by the way, put your 2 on enemies to make them take more damage, but that's usually very unnecessary, and it can be put on all your allies and allied structures, etc., etc. Extremely versatile ability. You can see in the bottom right, we have the amount of damage that this does whenever we get near enemies, and you can increase that by using your 4. So you use your 4, and this refreshes the timer of your 2, which is vitally important. You use your 4, and when you're outside of it, you can tap your 1 to shatter the glass and add the damage of that glass shattering into your AoE from your 2. And this stacks as high as it'll go, which is like 2.1 billion, some such. You're very unlikely to stack this all the way up to 2 billion, as it's really, really unnecessary. But this is generally going to be what you're going to want to do. And I have my Sahasa Kubro here, and I would say this is one of the main use cases for a Sahasa Kubro, in that they will dig up energy, and they detect kind of when you need energy, as you can see there. And they'll keep filling you up and letting you loop this for as long as you want without even being fueled by enemies. And also, it is worth noting that this usually is going to require a little bit of extra energy from somewhere every couple of minutes. But if you're just stacking this completely mindlessly, you know, it's going to be pretty unlikely that you're not going to run into any enemy ever. And if you're doing that, then you're probably not really using the damage from this or anything. So we're stacked up, and we're at like 91k, and like a regular endless mission, it's really easy to have this up into like the upper 100,000s. And it's also worth noting that I'm just using a just generally good melee weapon in the Redeemer Prime, which is not even particularly good at stacking this damage. It's like fine. It's just a good melee weapon, and that's actually one of the benefits of being Gara, is that sure, you could use a stat stick for your melee weapon, but you can also just bring a good melee weapon, and you're really not going to see any huge negatives. So we are going to do this test at level 180, as you normally would. And these enemies are going to pose, I mean, they're not really going to pose any real threat at all. Let's just be completely honest here. I mean, we have 100,000 damage AoE. The armored enemies, like, they can survive stuff, but, you know, turn to Firewalker. Now we're not going to be able to get knocked down or anything like that. We can just shatter these guys as we walk up to them. And this is going to generally be your experience in higher level content, honestly, like, because you're just going to stack this to the point where it's relevant to the enemies you're fighting, and stacking to level 180 doesn't take particularly long. You see, like, this level 180 is taking some decent tick damage, and we didn't stack it that much. And generally, because you're going to have to refresh your 2 anyway, you're going to be doing some of the stacking, and that's going to deal some AoE damage, as you see here on like this enemy. And it's pretty small on the heavily armored units, but I'm also completely unkillable essentially, so I'm not really too worried about what the enemies are up to. And you can see while I'm standing on the fire, I'm immune to knockdowns and such. Yeah, the damage that is being done here, really not particularly relevant, even if I'm just standing in front of a gunner. And yeah, that's like usually what Gara's up to. Your 4 also notably is a good defensive option for anything that you happen to be defending, which, you know, plenty of objectives in Warframe at this point are defend X thing. So you can use it for that, but usually you're just going to throw your 2 onto it, and that's going to be more than plenty for any given defense objective. And that's kind of how Gara's running right now. She's doing what she always did. She's a very consistent option that has, you know, infinite scaling damage available to her, but is usually just a very, very strong, very, very versatile weapons platform for you to use your Kuva New Cores and your Redeemers and so on and so forth to do whatever mission you happen to need to do. A wonderful, versatile Warframe that now has a cool looking Prime frame, which is great because her base model is a little rough. It's not aged super great. But yeah, that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Look forward to me checking out the new Prime weapons as well. Unfortunately, I don't think those videos are going to be as positive as this one. But look forward to those, and I will see you there. Goodbye, everyone.